What is going on, everybody? Welcome into RealTime Fantasy Sports. I am Howard Bender, joining you here tonight because Jeff Power is on assignment right now. And let me just see. I gotta make sure I got all my stuff here. I got all my right stuff here. Tonight's not Fantasy Alarm. It's Alaska. That's right. I'm going to go with the different hat here for tonight. So Jeff Power is away. I promised him that I would get things going here and cover this live stream here. It's another fantasy championship draft, a $500,000 grand prize. And, again, RTSports.com/Bender. You can jump in on any of the different deals that we've got going on over there as far as, joining the fantasy championships, whether it's the best ball championships, whether it's the Beat Howard Bender $10,000 best ball tournament, all that stuff over there. If you go to rtsports.com/Bender, not only will they give you a 50% match deposit on your first deposit there, but then you'll also you get to take that money and jump in and play against me or play against these guys here on the fantasy championship. Now, if you've been watching over time, Jeff Power and I, we've been like dissecting everybody's drafts and just kind of going through it. So we're just going to continue that same trend. Oh, look, I already got like comments in there. Jeremy, what's up? Oh, it's from Fozzie. What's up, Fozzie? Fozzie's always a great guy to draft with, draft against. Very, very strong, savvy player. But this draft here tonight has already gotten underway. So let me do the right thing here and share this with all of you guys so that you guys can check out everything that we've got going on in this draft. I'm going to share that. Look, it moves me, a little miniature me. Oh, there you go. I can sit down there or I can go to the side. Either way. I can also make this a little bit bigger because you folks out there with the old man eyes like me probably need that a little bit larger. So let's bump that up. And there you go. There you go. Who feels better now, right? You're not squinting anymore. Do I have to go a little larger there? No, because then you can't see everybody's team. So there we go. We'll leave it at that. And just shout it out to everybody who is in here in tonight's draft. We like to go through all the participants and shout them out. Picking first, Fantasy Gods. Now, some of these names I know, some of these names, a lot of these names I actually don't. So Fantasy Gods is picking first. Beach Bums, which is Joe Bradshaw. We've seen Joe here in a number of these drafts that we've done. He's picking second. Fast Lightning picking third. War 7. Hong Kong Phooey. I love the shout out. Hong Kong Phooey's got to be one of the most underrated Hanna-Barbera cartoons out there. And shout out to the old school Laugh Olympics, where you had the Yogis versus the Scoobies versus the Dastardlies. And Hong Kong Phooey played for the Scoobies, just in case anybody wants to know. Torrential is picking sixth. Nerd picking seventh. I think Nerd was in the contest here last week when we went and did that. I remember that Dungeons and Dragon 20-sided dice, the dodecahedron, I think that might be. Derek's Destroyers is picking on the eighth spot. Master Aemon is picking at the ninth. Route you out is picking in the 10th spot. What is that? Bruno Charzaria. Bruno Charzaria is picking in the 11th spot. And then Penny Nickel on the wheel. 12 teams, PPR. You guys all know the drill here. And I take a look at this first round and with the way it's kind of gone here so far, I would say it's pretty chalky, but this is probably the first time I've seen Jahmyr Gibbs go number one overall. That is definitely the first time that I've seen that. So Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, seen it all. This is where it does get a little interesting. And Brent Campbell in the chat. Yeah, it is a wide receiver. It's a very heavy wide receiver first round for RT Sports, right? Malik Neighbors, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I've said this before. I could give you a positive and I could give you a negative for any player taken in the first round. People kind of ask that question a lot. Now, you guys who are, in these high stakes drafts here, experienced, very savvy, you understand what I'm talking about. When people sit there and ask me over and over again, who do I take in the first round? I got the 4th pick. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? My general philosophy is, who the top 10, 12 players are. You've seen it. Go look at ADP. Go look at any draft that's been done. The order always differs from where you're going. It's about how you want to build your team. If you want to take Bijan Robinson first, that's great. Go running back. Go running back, hero running back, go running back heavy, bully running back. Although I am trying to get the movement now going where it's thick running back, and somebody just goes and just pounds that running back position. So listen, if these guys here in the middle of the draft, they want to start off with the wide receivers and, maybe they feel that there's some good running back value in rounds 3, 4, I am never going to tell anybody that they are building their team completely wrong unless I actually see them building their team completely wrong. So after Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian McCaffrey, then Devon Achane, Ashton Genty. Yeah, there it is right there. Brent, you've watched so many of these live streams. You know what we're talking about. I wish Jeff Power were here so he could see the Devon Achane, Derrick Henry tandem pick. It's just been one of those things, and it's not just Bruno here. We've seen several teams, unless Bruno's got some burner accounts and he keeps changing his name on us. We'll have to go back and do that kind of research to see what it's all about. But yeah, that does seem to be a pretty good stack. Now, I love that, we're sitting here at the tail end. This is one of the reasons why I do like drafting out of the back end of a draft here. Because, well, yes, I'm going to miss out on the Bijan Robinsons and the Jamar Chases. I know that at the back end of the draft, I'm getting some running backs that I like, right? I mean, if people are going to leave Christian McCaffrey for me there at the tail end, I'll take it. Because, I don't really care about handcuffing to Isaac Guerrero because it's not about investing in the player in the player as much as it is investing in the system. So I take Christian McCaffrey. I know that there's risk involved, but I know that Isaac Guerrero is right behind him, ready to step it on up. So I'm good doing that. I love the running back group there at that tail end, whether it's Achane, Genty, Derrick Henry. You see here in the second round, Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor, both coming off the board. I love these guys. I just did the FSGA, Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association draft on Monday night. Yeah, Monday night on Sirius XM. And I made the mistake. And Hong Kong Fooey, I love you. You and I started off my draft at the FSGA exactly as you just started your draft. The only difference is that you did it from the 5 spot. I did it from the 14th spot of an industry draft where you got a lot of old school people who love their running backs early. But I love Malik Neighbors, and Malik, I think, it's the numbers are going to be ridiculous. We all know Russell Wilson likes that moonshot down the sidelines, right? He's not an over-the-middle kind of a guy, but he loves throwing the deep pass. I think he ranked 3rd overall in accuracy of passes over 40 yards. And so, I look at the situation here, and, Malik Neighbors is a complete target monster and do it. But your next pick there was Brock Bowers. Now, doing it where you're doing it here, I think that's totally cool because it's only going to be a couple of picks that are going to come through here at the end of round 2 and into the beginning of round 3, where you're not going to get shut out of quality running backs. Last night in the 14-teamer, I took Malik Neighbors and then Brock Bowers on the wheel. And I proved to myself that Brock Bowers on the wheel in a 14-team league is just, it's no bueno. In a smaller league like this here in 12 teams, I think it's a viable thing because, and especially where you're drafting from, right? Because you're not going to see, you're seeing what? You're seeing 8 picks go by. I guarantee you're going to have quality running backs available to you if that's the direction that you choose to go. I am an old school guy. I do love getting my running backs. And so, yeah, last night, or Monday night, as soon as the draft ended, and I put that team together, I was like, I was like, if I had just not taken Brock Bowers and I had taken Jonathan Taylor, I think I would have liked my team significantly more. I kind of equated in that sense of I took Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers. If I didn't take Brock Bowers, I would have taken Jonathan Taylor. And so having Malik Neighbors, Jonathan Taylor, and then in my next time in the 3-4 turn, it was RJ Harvey was the best running back available. And I knew I had to grab a running back. But then I was looking at the rest of the board and I just didn't love any of the names there. So I just explored and I was like, you know what? Listen, I love Jalen Hurts. He's a top 5 QB. I think he's going to have to pass a little bit more this season because I think that, while I love Vic Fangio and I think he's a phenomenal defensive coordinator, they got rid of a lot of veteran talent in that defense and they're going to have to pick it back up again. And they're doing it younger. There are going to be mistakes made. No matter how great the coordinator is, he's not the one who's playing on the field. So I do have some concerns that the defense is going to let up points. And what does that mean? Well, to me, that means that Jalen Hurts is going to have to throw more than we used to, right? Saquon Barkley, I love him, but I mean, we're not pushing for another 2,000-yard season. I don't even think the Eagles are thinking about that. I think the Eagles might end up kind of yielding a little bit of that second half work to Will Shipley a little bit more because now they're like, okay, well, Barkley had his career year and he had that great season and blah, 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 blah. He's got this record. And I look at this and I say, you got to play for the team itself and you've got to do what's best for the team. And running Barkley into the ground again, after he just put up the most carries I think he's had in his career, you have to be careful with that. So I think that Hurts has to throw a little bit more. But, again, there you go, Hong Kong Phooey. He takes James Cook, right? Solid RB option there. He gets all of that work. Sure, they'll splash in a little Ray Davis here and there. But overall, no, I think that's a solid move. So kind of looking through it here. For the second round, Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, Brian Thomas Jr., Josh Jacobs, A.J. Brown, Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, Brock Bowers, Chase Brown, Rashee Rice, Breece Hall, and Ladd McConkey. So I have a very unpopular opinion here about Ladd McConkey. I don't remember if I've shared it here with the RT crew. I know I've shared it over on SiriusXM. I love Ladd McConkey. I think the world of him. I think he's a great route runner. I think he's got great hands. His relationship with Justin Herbert is giving me all sorts of Keenan Allen vibes, right? He's a good security blanket. Great guy to have. The thing about it is, though, we know that Harbaugh and Roman, Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, coach, offensive coordinator, they want to run the football. They want to run the football. They wanted to run the football last year a ton, but, when you've got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, it's not as stout of a running game, right? They get hurt. And the next thing you know, you got to have Justin Herbert passing a little bit more and whatever. Ladd McConkey last year, 112 targets, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. Fantastic. But that's because we were getting him last year. When? Round 6? Round 7 was when Ladd McConkey, I don't remember exactly where his ADP finished up before, but I genuinely believe that with the amount of running the Chargers want to do, and the fact that, you brought back Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston's still there, you drafted Trey Harris, all right? You've got options. I don't necessarily know with the amount of running that they're going to do this year because they've got Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris, whether or not he's going to get that many more targets than the 112 that he got. And if you're drafting him there at the tail end of that second round like that, you're drafting him at his ceiling. And I think that that's something that you have to take into consideration. It's no different than Brock Bowers. Is Brock Bowers giving you that much of an advantage at the tight end position over, look at that, Trey McBride in the third round? Or, is he giving you that much more than, I don't know, maybe George Kittle? Or dare I even say Evan Engram? So, the question is Bowers was great last year because he was like an 8th or a 9th round pick. And he turned out to be phenomenal. And he will be that lead guy, but you've elevated him up to the point where there's no value anymore. He has to perform at his ceiling for that to work for you. And that's a tough thing to do. It's a tall order to check out. Now I've got it all wrapped up in my head here when Brent was talking about the fact that it is so wide receiver heavy for an RTSports league. I'm looking at Torrential, I'm looking at Nerd, and I'm looking at Derek's Destroyers right there. And that's a lot of in 12 picks, 9 picks. In 9 picks, that's 7 wide receivers. Torrential going Jefferson, London, Hill. We'll see where he goes as far as the running backs go or the other positions. Lamb, Jackson Smith, and Najigba. I like the Jonathan Taylor splash in, but Derek's Destroyer is going to be in a very similar boat here as Torrential. And the middle of this draft, you're going to start sniping each other on the running backs because eventually you're going to have to, right? You start 2 running backs. You got the flex position that can use that as well. So, and you're only starting 2 wide receivers. It's one of the things that, I always have to kind of point out, because when you're doing a league that starts 2 wide receivers versus 3 wide receivers, it really just kind of, it just hits different. It's like, throwing darts at wide receivers in best ball versus, taking, ton of early wide receivers there. Is that really necessary? If you can only start 2 wide receivers, and you're drafting like 5 or 6 guys, at some point you're going to, if there's no trading, because there is no trading here in these money leagues, if you've got 5 guys on 5 top wide receivers here, what are you going to end up doing? Right. You're going to kill yourself with some of these decisions that you're going to have to make week in and week out. So just, something to be a little wary of as we're going through it here. Nerd jumps in with the Omari and Hampton pick to balance it out a little bit. You got 2 and 2. I like it. I'm dying to see where Torrential's going here. Where are you going, Torrential? Where are you going? 47, 46, 45. This is like the pick of the century here for me. I'm on the edge of my seat. I am. I think he's going to milk the clock. He's going to wait until or she is going to wait. And then you're going to have like that whole argument about how many people are eating their entire clock, things like that. DK Metcalf, look at that. So here you have it. 4 straight wide receivers. We're going to see where this kind of ends up. On the other side of the spectrum there, War 7, 3 running backs straight. Saquon Barkley, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving. What's he going to do? What's he going to do here in this one? I love this. This is a Chuba. Well, War, that just makes me want to give you like an awkwardly long hug. It really does. I love me some Chuba Hubbard. I think that is a fantastic pick there. Boom, Joe Bradshaw goes with his 3rd running back in this one. So, I'm looking at over here. I would say that, if we're kind of eyeballing the ADP, Jahmyr Gibbs at 1, Malik Neighbors at 5. Those are the 2 that stand out the most in that round. In round 2, I don't think that there's anybody out there that surprises me in the least. Maybe there's a little pullback on Rashee Rice. I know that there's some give and take there. In 3rd round, we got our first quarterback off the board in Lamar Jackson. And kudos to you, fantasy gods, for taking the number 1 quarterback, not Josh Allen. No offense there, route you out. No offense, but I do have some concerns here about Josh Allen as the number 1. I think he's still a top 5 QB. I just have a hard time banking on those rushing touchdowns to constantly come through, because if you look at the rushing yards and the passing yards, is he that much further off than, say, like Bo Nix, who's developing, who has a higher ceiling than what he did last year? I get that the rushing touchdowns, they count, and you can't say that they didn't happen, but with James Cook's touchdown count opening up a little bit more, and we're just looking at the passing situation there in Buffalo, I do worry that Josh Allen might not have the same value moving forward. But anyway, I digress. Lamar Jackson, Kyron Williams. That's actually a pretty big drop for where Kyron Williams has been usually going. He's been a second-round guy, as has Bucky Irving, for that matter. So Kyron Williams, Garrett Wilson, Bucky Irving, James Cook, Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Trey McBride, Alvin Kamara, Josh Allen, Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin. I love it, Penny Nickel. You know, who cares about the holdout, right? Who cares about the contract situation? He's scary, Terry. He's F-150. I think he finds his way in. I know he's getting disgruntled, and you're hearing some of the chatter out there, but I think that he has to stay in. And then I like the pairing there. Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels. It's a nice solid move for you there. And then here coming around round 4, T. Higgins, probably a little higher than I would take him. Kenneth Walker. I love Kenneth Walker. You guys have heard me here on the show just ranting and raving about how much I love the running game for Seattle. Clint Kubiak and the job that he does with Rick Dennison, just churning out 1,000-yard rushers time and time again. It's so good. So I love the Kenneth Walker pick. Marvin Harrison Jr. I love the Jalen Hurts pick here. Pairing him up with A.J. Brown. You got yourself a little nice pairing there. We'll see what happens if you try to stack even further. Omarion Hampton, DK Metcalf, Joe Mixon, Chuba Hubbard, R.J. Harvey, DeAndre Swift. That might be a little high for where DeAndre Swift's ADP usually puts him at, but I can't fault the pick here because who else is touching the football in that backfield, right? DeAndre Swift has the relationship with Ben Johnson, and I'll tell you what, one of the funny things was if Ben Johnson, because somebody was like, oh, well, they got rid of DeAndre Swift, so how much, could he possibly like him? I don't know who it was who decided to get rid of DeAndre Swift. Maybe Ben Johnson actually likes DeAndre Swift. But I'm not banking on guys like Roshan Johnson to be stealing away the carries there. I'm definitely not doing that. And then Mike Evans rounds out that round 4. Looking through the chat here with Brent Campbell, how do you feel about Hampton in front of Mixon and Hubbard? I think a lot of people are overreacting to the eye thing. I mean, I read one report today from somebody from The Athletic who was like, with Najee Harris maybe not starting camp on time, it increases the chances for Omarion Hampton to run away with the RB1 job. I get the philosophy behind that. But then I also saw another report, and this actually came from the Chargers, that they don't expect, Najee Harris to be out for very long. They don't expect him to be down and out. Here's a player that they paid $9.5 million to, and they guaranteed $5 million. They didn't guarantee $5 million to just toss Najee aside. Now, granted, they doled out the contract before Omarion Hampton fell to them in the draft, but they still had to know that once they were taking Omarion Hampton and they were looking ahead, they still have somebody, because who knows how the rookie's going to perform, right? I mean, who knows how well his game translates to the NFL? How many times have we seen a guy absolutely dominant in college and his skills just don't transfer to the NFL? We've seen it with a ton of quarterbacks over time. Corey Davis, how about that? Corey Davis is a player. You old school people know who I'm talking about here. He was a guy who came out of Central Michigan who was absolutely dominant at the college level. He was a very, very big focal point. And then he got into the NFL and he got into a bad situation as far as like the team that drafted him. It was the Titans who drafted him. He just there was never a clear path to targets for him. It was never a dominant thing. He also struggled at contested catches. He struggled to gain separation at the NFL level. So, I think that it's I like Omarion Hampton, the player. I'd love him in dynasty leagues. But am I taking Omarion Hampton over Mixon, Chuba? Probably not. Probably not. Although Mixon's going to be an interesting one there. I got to see how his ankle is doing. I know that it's been a little problematic, and we know that Houston brought in Nick Chubb. They still have Damian Pierce. That guy's hanging around. So, but I still think I would take Mixon over Omari and Hampton for sure. Round 5 goes Tet McMillan, who I definitely dig. Cortland Sutton, ex-receiver in the Denver Broncos scheme. They funnel targets to the ex-receiver. I mean, until Cortland Sutton is either traded or, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I know that that's been talked about there, but until he moves, he's still the ex-receiver. He's still the top guy. And, if you're looking at the other wide receivers on Denver, I think the only guy who I think has the size, the speed, and the wherewithal to be the ex-receiver in this system, I think it's Pat Bryant. But Pat Bryant still has a lot of learning to do. So I don't think he's leapfrogging Cortland Sutton very soon. Trevion Henderson, good solid pass catching back. We'll see how everything develops, the split between him and Ramondre Stevenson. I know all the Patriots fans out there are like, yo, how you doing? He's like the next James White. Stop looking for the next James White and just find the next big thing, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be James White. Part-time player who popped and got some good attention in major games, but man, I don't want to completely overrate the guy. DJ Moore is the first receiver taken by War 7. Number 1 target here for Caleb Williams, or at least we think he is. Travis Kelce, Swaggy Joe Burrow. And I'm watching you, Torrential. Torrential's going to sit here and we're going to like play chicken, right? As far as like whether or not he's going to take a running back and surprise me here at any point. But he takes Joe Burrow. George Kittle goes to Nerd. James Conner. I love the value on James Conner. I do. I get it. Maybe he misses a game or two each season, blah, blah, blah. You've heard me say it here before. The dude beat cancer. He's Hall of Fame in my book. I will take James Conner all day, every day, twice on Sundays. Devonta Smith goes to Master Amen. Sammy Laporta goes to Route You Gout. Calvin Ridley, and then closes it out with Aaron Jones. And I tell you what, it's a good solid round. Again, nobody really jumping ADP all that much. I think that's a good situation. What's the question here? Kelce before Kittle? I find it kind of interesting. I find it interesting that Hong Kong Phooey took Kelce even after taking Brock Bowers. I mean, you're definitely flexing that tight end. You're definitely going to be flexing a tight end. So, we'll see how the rest of the build actually happens. But, you pair him up here with Patrick Mahomes, and that makes sense. Would I do Travis Kelce over George Kittle? I think that's a situation where I think it's about how many shares I already have. And this is for me. This is for multi-league players. If I'm just playing in one league, then I'm probably going to take George Kittle over Travis Kelce, just because of all the other weaponry that's at Patrick Mahomes' disposal. Because now you've got a healthy Rashee Rice, a healthy Xavier Worthy. You've got Marquise Hollywood Brown is back, and you've got Travis Kelce. Not to mention Noah Gray gets in there when they do their 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. You've got pass catching running back in Kareem Hunt. You've got a pass catching running back in Brashad Smith. I would say that Kittle gets my nod over Kelce simply because he's probably he could see a higher target share. We're just seeing Mahomes spread the ball out a lot more, and defense is kind of covering Travis Kelce a little bit differently. So I don't, I think it's really a tomato sort of a thing. If you're a multi-league player, then, take, 50-50. If you're only one, then I'll put Kittle slightly above Kelce, but only slightly. Brent wants to know, do you handcuff James Conner with Trey Benson? Does Benson have standalone value? Now that's kind of an interesting debate, handcuffing, that we've talked about a lot. We actually talked about it on the Fantasy Alarm Show today. I'm a believer in handcuffing in the right situation, Not every running back has a handcuff. Isaiah Pacheco does not have a handcuff, a direct handcuff. Bijan Robinson does. Saquon Barkley sort of does, but do I look at Will Shipley and say that if Saquon Barkley were to go down, that Will Shipley would see, a barrel, the same touches? Like, that's one of my criteria for handcuffing, is that I want to take a guy who's the lead running back on his team. He is the bell cow back, and his backup will be a bell cow back. I don't want his, he's got two guys behind him. One's a great between the tackles guy, and one's a great pass catcher. Because then all of a sudden you're like, well, which guy do I want? Right? Somebody's going to take the pass catcher in a PPR league because they think he's got standalone value. So I don't think that every running back has a handcuff. In the James Conner case, I do think that he is the direct handcuff. I think Trey Benson is that handcuff because Conner will see the bulk of the work. Will Trey Benson get kind of weaved in here and there? Sure. Is it great standalone value? I don't really think so. If you're looking at a bye week, maybe he gets you like 8 points. Is that the be all end all? No, it's definitely not. But if Conner goes down, it's going to be Benson, and it's not going to be anybody else. Those are the situations that I like. Bijan with Tyler Algier, Christian McCaffrey with Isaac Guerrero, Kenneth Walker with Zach Charbonnet. I'm into that. Now, there are other analysts who will speak out against it. John Impemba was on the Fantasy Alarm Show with me earlier today, and he's against it. He's like, I will not take a guy and eat a bench spot unless that player has actual standalone value. And he cited Jordan Mason. And I think, listen, Jordan Mason to me is the handcuff to Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones Mason will have standalone value, but they're not going to split the workload to the point where you're like super psyched that like Jordan Mason is going to be your flex in week 5, week 4. No, probably not, because you still have fresh legs there on Aaron Jones, and it's a pass heavy environment. And, that necessarily, I don't necessarily agree that there's, tremendous standalone value. So, again, I just don't think that it has, every, handcuffing people doesn't have like the same, like over and over again. So I think I answered your question there. What else do we got? No. All right. So let's get back to this draft here and see what we're working on. Where did we just leave off? We left off on round 5, the Aaron Jones, and we turned it over here to David Montgomery, who I love. I like him tons. George Pickens, Ricky Pearsall. Now, this is going to be the interesting situation, what we're looking at with San Francisco, because you got Brandon Ayuk on his way back. Is Brandon Ayuk going to be healthy? Is he going to be 100% when he returns? We don't know. But what we do know is that if he starts the season on the PUP list, let's say, and he misses the first 4 weeks, it's Juwan Jennings and it's Ricky Pearsall, right? When Ayuk comes back, because San Francisco utilizes the fullback so much, they do a lot of just 2 receiver sets. And so the question is going to be, who comes off the field when Brandon Ayuk comes back? Will it be Jennings? Will it be Pearsall? I think a lot will depend on situation, but overall, I think that Juwan Jennings is a great pick, and I think that he is. I'm surprised that Ricky Pearsall, his ADP gets that much more over Juwan Jennings, primarily because Jennings can work the outside, and when they go into 3 receiver sets, then he'll slide into he'll move into the slot, and Pearsall will take the outside opposite Ayuk. So I think that there's more options here for Juwan Jennings. I think when they go into that, into the 3 receiver set. So I like Pearsall. I'm just not crazed about him. Tony Pollard, I just hate the fact that they keep saying that Tajay Spears is going to get 50% of the work. I don't know any other way to say it. I just don't know. Jamison Williams, Caleb Johnson. I like Caleb Johnson. I like this pick a lot. There's a lot of things going on here. I just published an article on all of the coaching systems in the AFC North, and I really kind of dug into the Steelers. And obviously, a lot is going to depend on how Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith gel. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be that guy who, really the ultimate kick in the nuts to the Jets? Is that all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers becomes a company guy and he's happy handing the ball off as much as Arthur Smith wants? Or is Aaron Rodgers going to be a cantankerous son of a bitch like he usually is and can make all nicey right now, but come game time, he's just going to keep audibling at the line and he's going to keep calling pass plays when Arthur Smith wants to run the football? So we're kind of on the fence on that situation, but for running the football, Caleb Johnson, I like Caleb Johnson a lot more than I like Jaylen Warren. Caleb Johnson ran a lot of outside zone scheme, outside zone blocking at Iowa, and he followed behind that. He knows how to follow his blockers, and if he's got those guys who can, those offensive linemen who can move out laterally, I think Caleb Johnson is going to succeed tremendously. I think it just pushes Jaylen Warren into that, hi, I'm a pass-catching running back. I'm third down. I'm a great pass blocker, which is why Aaron Rodgers likes me. So I like the Caleb Johnson pick. I like the Xavier Worthy pick. Patrick Mahomes, how could you not? I love Patrick Mahomes. I actually think that the Chiefs kind of put a little bit something together today. This season. I think they throw a little bit more. I think they stretch the field a little bit more. So I could definitely dig on some Patrick Mahomes over there. Chris Olave, that's a pick I can't get behind. And I love the player. I really love the player. But this dude is one hospital ball away from calling it a career. And Tyler Shugg is going to be inexperienced. All right. Spencer Radler is inexperienced. Right. I as much as I love Chris Olave, I think there's just too much risk. There's too much danger. And I know that the Saints will probably be terrible and they're going to have to chuck the ball all over the field, but that's just going to open it up even wider. So I'm actually avoiding Chris Olave. War 7, I understand the pick. I'm just not going to get behind it here. Chris Godwin goes off the board, then Jerry Jeudy. And there you go. Again, let's talk Cleveland. Who's the quarterback? Right now they're leaning Kenny Pickett. That's the lean. That's what we're hearing. Joe Flacco, not so much anymore. And I'll tell you what, it's like the fantasy community fell in love with Joe Flacco because he was throwing 40 to 50 times in a game. And it just, was just chucking the ball all willy-nilly, racking up those passing yards and stuff like that. But we saw games where he didn't do that, and it became problematic, and he threw for 220 yards and 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. So the difference is, though, both of them are likely to start over Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. I don't think either one of these rookies is ready to take the reins here. So when it comes to who's going to be the quarterback for the Browns, I think that decision is really going to determine which receivers pop the most. If you're talking about Joe Flacco under center, then yeah, Jerry Jeudy's going to see a great number of targets. Cedric Tillman's going to pop. Like Cedric Tillman is definitely like the deep shots downfield. Kenny Pickett, I think they're shortening up the yards per target, and they're going to shorten up the routes. And Kenny Pickett's going to be fine for Jerry Jeudy, right? But he's going to be more like Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku. So Jeudy either way is going to get a share. I think Jeudy pops more with Kenny Pickett than he does with Joe Flacco, but it's going to be a very interesting watch right there. Isaiah Pacheco at the end of round 6. You guys are flying through this draft. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable how quick this is going. Isaiah Pacheco closes out round 6. Zay Flowers, Najee Harris. I love the Stephon Diggs pick. I really do. And I'm surprised. Like, his ADP is climbing up. It's definitely climbing up because this is probably the first time I've seen him go ahead of like Jalen Waddle and Travis Hunter and Jordan Addison. right? Because there were so many people who were afraid that he was going to start the season on the PUP list. But everything that we're hearing right now is good news for Diggs. And you break down that New England offense and what Josh McDaniels wants to do. Stephon Diggs is he's gonna see mad targets here from Drake May in that RPO work. Is gonna be. I like Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, Zach Charbonnet, stealing handcuffs. Hong Kong Phooey stealing handcuffs. Where's Kenneth Walker? Route you out. Yeah, it's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. You lose out on Zach Charbonnet. Travis Etienne, Brian Robinson Jr. The Quinshon Judkins pick. I just have to stare into the camera here for a little bit. Maybe give just kind of like a really. Nice little piece by Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland.com, Cleveland Plain Dealer, I think is where she writes. Basically said that the Browns, surprisingly, are not in any kind of a rush to have Quinshon Judkins sign his rookie contract. Right, this is what we're dealing with right now. Right, we're seeing the guaranteed money that Cleveland gave out to their second round pick, and then Jaden Higgins, he got his guaranteed money first from the Texans, and then 30 out of 32 players from the second round haven't signed. So Quinshon Judkins, one of those players who hasn't signed his rookie deal, and now I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't want to weigh in on it because I don't personally have all the facts. I'm not going to speculate or anything like that. Yes, domestic violence sucks. All right. I come from a family that has experienced domestic violence. I know what it's all about. It's a crap thing. It's a terrible, terrible thing. And people need help. And I kind of like how the Browns laid it out, right? The team that stupidly gave $252 guaranteed $1 million to Deshaun Watson. And now all of a sudden they're like, we think that Quinshon Judkins needs to deal with his self first and stay focused on what's going on in his life right now before we start worrying about, his rookie contract and getting into camp, because he does need help. If everything there is true, but again, I have not. If you guys are very interested, my buddy Drew Davenport, who writes for Football Guys, his Twitter handle is @DrewDavenport_FF. And he's a lawyer, and he dives into all of the legal issues going on with players. He'll tell you what's going on with Jordan Addison, with Rashee Rice. He'll keep pace with everything that's going on with Quinshon Judkins. So I'll tell you what, I mean, it's not a pick I'm making. I get it. If he pops, that's great. But I mean, you're not even getting him as at low value here because, really, Brian Robinson Jr. is right there. Tajay Spears in a 50-50 situation, Tyrone Tracy, these guys, I don't necessarily know if, let Quinshon Judkins fall a couple of more rounds before we start being like, oh, I can't pass up on that value, right? Because at this point right now, here in the 7th round, you can pass up on it. Well, I don't want to waste a 7th round pick. Travis Hunter, Javonte Williams, Tajay Spears, Jordan Addison. Then it comes back around here, round 8. TJ Hawkinson, Baker Mayfield, Jacoby Myers, Tyrone Tracy, Jalen Warren, Jordan Mason, and J.K. Dobbins. So in looking at these three teams in the middle here that went fairly quickly with wide receivers, well, Torrential went 4 wide receivers, Joe Burrow, and then a 5th wide receiver. Still managed Travis Etienne and J.K. Dobbins there as his running backs. Picks up some value here on Michael Pittman in the 9th round, which I definitely agree with. I think that is a value pick. But both Nerd and Derek's Destroyers, they dove in neck deep. Like they went early wide receiver for their top 2 guys, and then immediately jumped ship and started paying more attention. Derek's Destroyers goes Trey McBride with Jalen Hurts, and goes to James Conner before even going back to a running back Nerd takes CeeDee Lamb, Jonathan Taylor, Jackson Smith, and the Jigba, top 3 picks, and then doesn't touch a wide receiver again until Josh Downs in the ninth round. Sorry about that. So where are we at? Oh, okay. Then Jawan Jennings, Evan Engram. I love that pick. The Joker role in Denver. It's going to be very interesting. And somebody actually, it's kind of funny. I'm very bullish on this Denver offense, and I have been. But I've got some people that are like, well, everybody's saying Evan Engram in that Joker role, but then they're also taking a look at the fact that, the running backs in a Joe Lombardi system, the running back room has finished in the top 5 for running back targets and running back receptions for the last 18 straight seasons. It's huge. But I guess the question is where are all the targets going? Are they going to the running backs? Will they go to Evan Engram? You still have Cortland Sutton as the X receiver. Kind of funny. I kind of think that the person who kind of misses out is the person that so many people, that Big Fantasy continues to try and push on you. In case you haven't heard, me use Big Fantasy before, that's when you go to like fantasy football Twitter and everybody's hyping up this one guy. They're like trying to shove him down your throat that he's like the next greatest thing, right? Dontavian Wicks, prime example of Big Fantasy trying to push a guy, into existence, and it doesn't happen there. So much so that I saw the nickname on Reddit, Droptavian Bricks, because that's really what he was all about. But sometimes Big Fantasy, they like a terrier on a bone, they just keep going after it. So yeah, Big Fantasy in on that one. Where did I miss on the draft here? Engram, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Jadon Blue. Then in round 9, Ramondre Stevenson, Rome Odunze, Matthew Golden, Khalil Shakir, Isaac Guerrero. There you go. Hong Kong Fooey's just stealing everybody's handcuffs now. He's stealing everybody's handcuffs. We're Christian McCaffrey. Oh, and again, it's route you out. I mean, listen, Javonte Williams, Bashal Tootin, Trey Benson. You got to bulk up there. I mean, you've got two running backs who do have, fairly lengthy injury histories. They are both bell cows in their system. They are going to see the bulk of the work. But if something happens, you're going to have to turn to Bashal Tootin, Trey Benson, Javonte. I do think Jadon Blue takes that job eventually. I think Javonte will be in, he'll be involved early on in the season, but I think eventually. There we go. All right. Guerrero, Pittman. You just took Marvin Mims. Hong Kong, are you listening in? Let's chime in on this one here. What do we got? Downs, Jaden Reed, Cam Scatabo. Oh, a little collective there of Giants running backs. Tootin, Njoku, and Brandon Ayuk. So kind of looking through here, I see Dave O'Donnell in the chat. The H.N. Henry team looks good this week. Yeah, it really does. H.N., Derrick Henry. You've got Tajay Spears, who, apparently is going to have standalone value and a 50% share out of it. Great wide receivers here, right? I mean, Devontae Adams going to see mad targets there in Los Angeles. T. Higgins, obviously, they just paid him a boatload of money. Calvin Ridley, the sneaky number 1 that everybody just keeps pushing down the boards. Calvin Ridley's in there. George Pickens should be a solid wide receiver 2 in Dallas. He gets that, a pass-friendly quarterback in Baker Mayfield. I'm still on the kick of the mobile QBs, but I get it. I see what you're doing here. Baker Mayfield, David Njoku, I love. Emeka Egbuka. Oh, we'll have to see what happens with Chris Godwin to see what kind of work Egbuka is going to get. Round 10, Darnell Mooney, Egbuka, Trey Benson, Tucker Kraft, Austin Eckler. Then here are my 2 favorite mid-tier QBs going back and forth, Bo Nix and Kyler Murray. Now, I am kind of curious here, the fact that it is not a super flex league. It is not a best ball league. Joe Burrow versus Kyler Murray. How many times are you going to fight with yourself, wondering which guy you should start each week? Conventional wisdom says you start Joe Burrow each week, but then why use that high draft pick on Kyler Murray if you're going to go with Joe Burrow every week? One of the things that we talk about over at Fantasy Alarm, we talk about the yin yang draft style, draft strategy. And that's basically, it's when you take a guy, like a good high, good safe floor guy, like a Joe Burrow, for example. Joe Burrow's got a great floor, right? They throw a ton. Their defense sucks. He's got great weapons. And that what you're doing this week in, week out. Kyler Murray is like, I'm not really a mystery box, but here's a guy who can pick up 40, 50 yards per game on the ground, right? Can poach touchdowns. He's got a very high ceiling. But the problem is that, if you end up, thinking about going to start Kyler Murray, you're going to bench Joe Burrow. That's going to, again, that sort of thing is going to drive you crazy. When I draft a team, I like to draft a team that I don't have to make those decisions week in, week out. I don't want to have to deal with it. It's aggravating. You're going to drive yourself insane thinking, do I start Joe Burrow? Do I start Kyler Murray? So when I draft my team, I want to draft those top guys. I want to draft the lead players there and not have to make crazy decisions every single week, because you know what? You're going to get those decisions wrong at times. Not everybody is like perfect coach's rating and doesn't leave points sitting on the bench. And when you have Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray in this format, you are going to probably leave some players on the bench or some points on the bench. And that's kind of a pain in the ass thing. So it's not the move that I would make in this situation when you got a guy like Joe Burrow. But again, there's obviously more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to win a fantasy championship. And here you go. Maybe you've got, you're looking at correlation late in the season. You're trying to figure out, who's going to be the better option there. So it's a great team. And I like the ad here of Jerome Ford, because again, who knows with Quinshon Judkins. Now, Jerome Ford, not the most efficient running back, right? We've seen him pop for like a 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown, but then the guy's got like a 2.8 yards per carry average for every other time he touches the football. Now, you're not going to discount or take away the fact. You can't say, well, you take that away and what is he? Because he had that. But if he doesn't pop for that big touchdown, where is his floor? And is that worth the price of admission? Now you're taking him in the 11th round. That's huge. That's great. I'm waiting to see when that ADP is going to pop up. And you know what? Listen, we're all adults here, right? We can name players who haven't been drafted. I'm very curious to see where this crew takes Dylan Sampson, because I could legitimately see a tandem backfield here where Jerome Ford will get, the early down work. Dylan Sampson, small, speedy, great pass catcher. I think if Quinshon Judkins doesn't play a snap, I think that's, we're going to do, because we're already hearing from Kevin Stefanski, who says that he wants to go back to running the football more than what he's done over the past couple of seasons. And that's, again, that's music to my ears. Why couldn't you still have Nick Chubb when you're talking like that? But, whatever. These things, they happen. Nix, Murray, Marvin Mims, Rashad White, Mark Andrews. Look at Mark Andrews falling to the 10th round. It's really, the bottom's dropping out here. I know that John Harbaugh said that he wants to, help Isaiah Likely into a breakout season, but I'm not going to deal with that kind of coach speak right now. I'm just not going to. Isaiah Likely, we saw the increase in snaps. Isaiah Likely is a better blocker than Mark Andrews is. And that's why you're going to see Isaiah Likely's snap count keep going up, because every time the Ravens are facing a defense that is soft against the run, you know that you're just going to pound the rock with Derrick Henry the entire time. You're going to start Isaiah Likely on the field because he's just the better blocker. But I think, Mark Andrews still has Lamar Jackson's eye, and he's still going to get his work. This is probably the lowest I've seen Mark Andrews fall for sure. And the fact that Tucker Kraft, the most boring tight end known to mankind, is getting this kind of love. Well, what's the dude got? He's 3 catches for 40 yards. Is what you're looking at on average from him? I don't know. I mean, is that what I want? If I'm taking a tight end this low, I want somebody who's got upside, right? If I'm not taking an Evan Engram or a Trey McBride or a George Kittle, okay, then I want upside. I want, a player who has the chance to pop. And Tucker Kraft is sitting there with Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. Luke Musgrave is still around, and we all know that Matt LaFleur likes Luke Musgrave. You've got so many different options there in Green Bay that really, what are we looking at for the ceiling here for Tucker Kraft? I'd rather take Mark Andrews and the possibilities that he could provide. I'd rather take Tyler Warren. Where's my little? Oh man, I don't know if I can do it here right now where I can look at my best available, but I'm sure there are some tight ends there towards the bottom that just have just bigger upside. Bigger upside. I like the bigger upside. What do we got here? Beach Bums and Fast Lightning for me. Brent Campbell likes Beach Bums and he likes the Lightning. Where are we going? All right, so I will start with Beach Bums here. Jamar Chase, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, DeAndre Swift, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Najee Harris, Deebo Samuel, Romo Dunze, Tyler Warren. I like that Dak Prescott pick right there at the back end. I think that's a nice little pick. Yeah, that's a hot team. That's a hot team. You got 3 solid bell cow backs right there. You've got the number 1 wide receiver, and then you've got the number 1 in Sutton, number 1 in Jeudy. Najee's going to have good standalone value. Number 2 receiver in Washington with Deebo. Romo Dunze, I know there are a lot of people hoping that he's going to pop. Tyler Warren, I love that team. Congratulations there, Beach Bums. Very well done. Now, Fast Lightning comes around here. Bijan Robinson, Rashee Rice, Garrett Wilson, RJ Harvey, Travion Henderson, Chris Godwin, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Golden, Mark Andrews, Tyler Algier. Fast Lightning with that handcuff. I like it. And then Drake May, who, let's face it, Drake May. I love that. You got Drake May paired up here with Stephon Diggs. You also have Travion Henderson. So it's an interesting little Patriots stack that you've kind of put together here, Fast Lightning. And, the best part about it is that, Diggs, his ADP is climbing, and you're going to expect his ADP to climb, but you're not reaching for Drake May, and you're not reaching for Travion Henderson there. So, the players are coming to you at the proper value. And now you've got that little fun little stack going on there. Brent Campbell says he's a Pats fan and he likes it. And you know what? I'll tell you what. I have done it in a few drafts. If you go to the Beat Bender drafts over here, again, it's rtsports.com/bender. All right. You can deposit if you're depositing for the first time. If you're watching this for the very first time and you deposit, they'll give you an instant deposit match up 50% match up to $500. So take care of that. And then there's a little button there at rtsports.com/bender that says draft against me. And that'll show you the times available, the drafts available. We got a lot of slow drafts in there. I'm moving. I'm not going to be here next week. I'm moving to Alaska. Woohoo. In August, I'm going to start setting up specific Beat Bender drafts that we're going to do all at once. And maybe we'll even do one of them here on the live stream. Maybe we'll piggyback off of that and do just kind of keep checking in on the best ball draft as it happens. So we'll check that out for sure. All right. Well, listen, we've finished 12 rounds, and I feel like that's the longest that we've gone here in doing an hour-long draft show. So congratulations to you guys for making this happen. I agree. Fast Lightning, Beach Bums, rock solid teams here. I do also like Penny Nickel in the corner. I think that's going to be a tough team to beat. And then, of course, who doesn't love that RB heavy War 7? So, but that's going to do it for us here tonight on the show. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. Again, the Beat Bender drafts. any of the drafts over there at RTSports.com. Why miss out on them, right? The Fantasy Championship, the Best Ball Championship, even just doing some Draft Masters, some fun best ball stuff over there. So I thank you all so much for joining me here. Thank you so much for the comments in there. Dave O'Donnell, Brent Campbell, Fozzie. I absolutely love the fact that you guys are all hanging out here with me. So appreciate that very much. I will not be here next week, but Jeff Power will. So maybe go check out the Fantasy Championship draft schedule and sign up for next Wednesday. I will be back in August from the Great White North. For RTSports.com, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.